Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to see everybody here. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight to do this whole mission brainstorming session. Before we get started, I have to do a little bit of advertising to you all to make sure that you know that this is essentially what we're going to be doing week in and week out on Wednesday nights. It's going to be a dinner. I don't know how many of you went to the dinner tonight, but there's a dinner from 6:30 to 7, and then we're going to have faith formation and adult ed in the evening. So please feel free to come out to those things. We hope that you will. We're doing this so that we can have these kind of community nights. It's really nice to get together in the middle of the week and to see everybody here. So if you're available, and we actually have childcare too, by the way. So if you have kids, you can bring your kids and drop them off and forget about them for an hour and a half or whatever. And then, not that I would ever forget about my children or anything, but I'm just saying, if you want to do that, you can. So that's our pitch for this coming up. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to pray, and then we're going to go through the rules, because we are Presbyterians, and there are always rules when we do something like this. So let's pray. Lord, what a wonderful time we are in, where we can start defining what the mission for our church is going to be. And I'm so thankful that there are so many people who are here, coming out, trying to help us figure out what that is. They're going to offer their ideas. And I pray that everybody who has an idea tonight would have the opportunity to come up and to share it with us. And I pray that we would also know that these ideas are going to have a huge impact on the community around us. And so I just hope and pray for your Spirit to be with us, and that those ideas would be something that would really allow us to serve your Son in the way that he asks. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So, this evening, you all are coming here to bring your ideas about what we're going to do for the mission for our church. And I'm pretty sure everybody in here has a sense or an idea of what this is all about, which is that we are defining what we're going to do as a group, together, as a community, to serve Arlington Heights. And so we need your ideas to make that happen. The way it's going to work is, anybody can come up. You come up to the microphone. I would ask, this actually is being recorded just in case, so that we have, an audio backup of all this. So we can go to you and say, you are the one who came up with this idea, and thank you for causing us all this hardship, right? So we'll have you come up, come to the microphone, state your name, and then your ideas. And what's going to happen is that as you state your ideas, you're going to give your idea out. There's going to be people up here to write who have much better handwriting than I do, and they're going to write these down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to what you say, and I'm probably going to be restating it, because we're not going to be able to write down every single thing you say. That's why we have something recording up there. But I'll restate it into something, the essence of what your idea is, and we'll get that idea down, and we're going to start hanging these things. These are all Post-it notes. And we're going to start hanging them up around the sanctuary. We're going to keep them up here through Sunday morning, and we're going to make sure that people can see what you all came up with. I know that's going to detract from the beauty of the sanctuary for just a little bit, but the truth is I think everybody needs to see what you all came to do tonight and what you all provided for us. So, is that clear on what we're doing here? Okay, one other thing I just want to make clear about this, which is I know that some of you have been involved in mission for a long time here. For you all, this is nothing new. It's something you've been doing. You've been doing pads. You've been going on various mission trips to South Dakota, DR. Just so we're all clear, none of that's going to stop. It continues to go. It's going to always continue as long as you all want to have it. But this is something for all of us. Are we on the same page with that? Something that all of us are going to do. All right. So, with that, are we ready to go? Okay. So I want everybody just to crowd the microphone and fight each other to get up. So let's just form a line. If you have 2 or 3 people here, you can start coming up, and you can start providing your ideas. Does that sound good? All right. Don't everybody jump up at once, though. Okay? All right, Kate. Let's get us started, huh?
Teach everybody comedy. No. Kate McVeigh. And I ran into a situation the other day, so I thought maybe this would be helpful. If we taught English to people, is that possible?
English to people.
English to people that don't speak English. English
ESL,
to
okay.
we have a large Hispanic
English as a-
community in the
English as a
areas.
second language.
No, English as a first language to those people. Sorry, but yes, teaching
English is a second language. Okay.
Yes.
So why don't we say English as a second language, or English to people, if we're going to be direct about what Kate said. All right. Who's up next? I'm not going to make fun of you every time you bring an idea, by the way. That's just Kate.
Sorry, you can keep it. I know. My name is Beth Drost, and I brought show and tell. This is Vernon. Some of you may know that for about 5.5 years I've been taking children in, and it's through a program called Safe Families, and they're located in the city. They are looking to partner with churches to work within their communities to help parents and families that are struggling for short-term care for their children. And I think it would be a great partnership.
Okay, and so what's the organization again?
It's called Safe Families. It's actually a movement.
Okay.
They told me it was a movement,
Okay.
not an organization.
So partner with Safe Families to help with children
Right.
who
You
need...
can either do it, you can do it on a 3-tiered system, but you can start out just with your community, working with people in your community, supporting the movement itself, or going into the broader community.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that, Beth.
We'll let Ty catch up. I'm Chris Conroy. I'd like to suggest that we think about sponsoring a permanent PAD site, meaning acquiring a building and partnering with either Journeys or another social service and a medical center to provide a stable environment for our homeless. I've seen this done in Aurora, Illinois. It can be done, and I think we're the good group to do it.
Okay. Thank you. So, permanent pad site. She actually, let's put down with building and medical center.
My name is Kurt Ehlers. I'd like to see us suggest we expand the Make a Difference Day from just a one-day, half-a-morning thing into something that was full-time year-round. I came up with this based on participation in what we did last spring, where we went to one place and we spent a couple hours, and I noticed things that, those of us in the church could have also helped with too. So all these places that we visit.
Let's just clarify, you're talking about our service day.
Our service day,
Okay.
Make a Difference. Also, along those lines, we had that wheeling paint-a-thon that we participated in that. And that's just 2 examples of things that we did. But mainly it would be for, getting us involved with the community, and would include a wide variety of different things, which means then you can make it available to different age groups. And it would also probably be community outreach, because we could see, get ourselves visible within the community.
So let me make sure I understand. The idea is to expand it so that we're doing it more often?
More often, it's a full-time thing. It's a mission, not just a couple of days.
And would it be involved with just one of the people who we work with, or would it be with all the organizations?
I haven't developed the idea. You said brainstorming, so that's
Okay.
all.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure we're reflecting your idea the way you came up.
That's what I think. It
Okay.
would need to take some development, but that would basically be the purpose, which
Okay.
I think goes along the lines of what you had said for criteria.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, Kurt.
Okay, so my name is Chuck Cooper, and the idea basically is to get involved with refugee resettlement in the area, and this would be picking up on those groups that handle this on a large-scale basis, like Church World Services, where they have a currently limited amount of time that they can be involved. We could partner with them, contribute to providing housing, provide support services, help them get through the education process, generally help them get acclimated to the country as they arrive.
Okay, so, and that's through Church World Service, at least that's the organization that you know of that does it.
There are many organizations that do this in the country, but that's one of them. I think of them only because they do the blanket drive and we're, crop, and there are other things with which we're already affiliated one way or another.
Okay.
Okay? Make sense?
Makes sense, absolutely.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Chuck.
Hi, Ty. I'm okay. I'm Joe Lyon, and what did I do? Oh, okay, thanks. I'm Joe Lyon, and about 30 years ago, we tutored inmates at Cook County Jail, and there were upward of 100 people involved over the period of time. We went down once a week to go over their GED studies. They were working on GEDs, and it was a one-on-one tutoring, and it was a wonderful experience. It really gave you a lot of insight into what's going on in the city of Chicago, the culture, and how to break the culture. It was a great experience for us, and we hope it was a good experience for the inmates. It takes some investigation, but it can be done.
So it's tutoring inmates towards helping them get their GED, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, excellent. Do you have any jails that you worked with particularly in that?
Do
the
I
Cook
have what?
County Jail, was that the one that you dealt with? That was the one that you
Yeah.
dealt with?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
all. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Joe.
Hi, I'm Therese Haynes, and I'm presenting on behalf of Michelle Hollyfield. She asked me to bring her ideas because she's finishing up with the cleanup downstairs. She has two ideas: home cleanup, rehab, decorating for elderly, ill, mental health issues, and other special circumstances.
Okay, hold on.
I know, it's broad. For more information, contact Michelle.
So wait, so say it one more time, but a little slower.
Home cleanup, rehab, decorating for elderly, ill, mental health issues, and other special circumstances. So I would take that as support for those that can't do things in their home, maybe.
Right, that's probably a good way to...
Inside or outside work, year-round service.
Wait, is that a second one?
That's still the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, in the community.
And the second one, she was more, I would say, passionate about, a health and fitness nutrition program, outreach for really any population, but she put youth in the community, expanding to like an after-school program, could target specific populations such as kids from domestic violence situations or kids with health issues, mental health, family issues, something like a healthy living lifestyle program.
So we probably have to build like a full-on gym with like workout equipment
Right.
and stuff just to accommodate that. That's what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, right.
Just to make sure that we could do that.
And with exercise, cooking, and health topics being covered. Did you want her notes?
Yeah, we can hold on to them. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Cooking and healthy living. Right, what you got. So.
I was waiting until she was done writing. I'm Kathy Walker, and one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is the kids that don't have meals during the summer, and because at school they have hot lunch and breakfast, and the kids that don't have those things during the summer and during school breaks. So doing something for lunches for those
So
children.
it sounds like working with underprivileged children
Yes.
whose parents may not provide enough nutrition for them.
Right,
And making sure that they get the nutrition they need,
Right, at least a meal a day.
at least. Thank you.
My name is Bill Hamilton, just like on a $10 bill. And I'm a new member. Maybe this is covered at number 4 over there, but my suggestion would be to offer services on Saturday or some other day other than Sunday. But admittedly, that would make more work for the pastoral
It's okay.
staff.
Ty said she'd be totally open to that. So why don't we say,
So
services.
Oh, it's a regular church service, but not everybody can make it on Sunday. If some people work on Sunday. So it wouldn't have to be Saturday, but that would be just
Right.
probably
Okay.
a day to think about. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, Bill.
Can I turn this on? And can you turn it on?
Oh, you want to turn it on?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Emily Alford. I'm a new member, and I have to say I am absolutely in love with this church and with the congregation, and thank you for being so welcoming. I could support and would support any one of these, and I don't see how we can choose one. But the one I bring to you, you'll never guess. You'll never guess this one. But here's how it started. On December 21st at 9:30 a.m., I was here in church listening and taking notes from Alex, the wise one. He's so much younger than I am. And here was the confession that we all shared. Shepherd of Israel, God of hosts, we have turned away from you, neglecting the welfare of your creation, trampling on the creatures and plants you have made, taking from earth what we cannot give back. So I'm here tonight to plead for insects. I said insects. Insects. Here's the problem. Yes, I'm a bit of a tree hugger. How many of you have hummingbirds visiting your backyards in spring? Oh, that's wonderful. About 5 people, 6, 7. And we really should have everyone raising their hands. How many of you have bumblebees? Blue jays. Oh, you have bumblebees. Ooh, that really, there's actually a site that asks you to take pictures of those bumblebees and the plants so that we can know and begin to understand the kind of plants that bumblebees need. So these are insects I'm pointing to, and you're puzzled. Here's the problem. 95% of the land in the United States has been developed, 41% for agriculture and 55% for suburban and urban use. And what's beginning to happen is we're losing biodiversity. And that really goes back to our confession. And to me, a confession without action still remains something to be confessed. And I don't know, when I was a kid as a Presbyterian, and I've diverted to a number of churches in the meantime, but without action, then it's sin. So we continue with confessions. It works something like this. The way that we live on earth is because we all eat the sun. We don't eat it directly. Plants are the only living beings on earth that can convert energy from the sun into sugar and carbohydrates. And then those carbohydrates are eaten by insects, and that's the basis of the food pyramid and food chains. So I know that I know this is sort of out in left field, but I've worked for 20 years with science teachers, across the state of Illinois. I started out as a principal in Arlington Heights. And from that and the science work that I've done, I've come to understand that we have an obligation to do something in our own backyards. And so I thought that perhaps one of the things that we could do is tack this little piece on, because I know we've got incredible gardeners. So if all of us committed to this in some kind of way, to create some little piece of land so that we could, encourage monarchs. We have the only population of migrating monarchs in the whole world, and we're about to lose them because we've named a plant a weed, milkweed, and we should call it really a monarch weed, because only these monarchs laid their eggs on that milkweed plant because of the latex that's in that plant. So it really, we could tack this on to something that kids could do. They could do the research to tell us what we need to plant in our backyards. And I thought we could call it something like Little Eden. And so I leave you with this. If we plant little Edens in our backyard, because here was another confession that we all shared. We have not cared for earth and all creatures as you meant for us to do. So if you could put Emily is for insects somewhere, you'll at least remember that. And maybe if we don't, as a congregation, agree to take action, we could then as individuals. So thanks for your time.
So, Emily, let me just make sure I got what you said correct. So, we just want to create space for plants that support insect life in our backyards to improve biodiversity. Is that about right?
That's awesome.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm Richard Scott. I'm supposed to follow that. This is an idea, it was actually a ministry that Jeff Deardorff had several years before he left us. And that would be a ministry to the people in the backstretch at the racetrack, helping with language, helping other ways with them. Not sure whether it's the type of thing the whole church can get into, but this is brainstorming, so I thought I'd throw open them all and see how big it splatters.
So, we want to minister to the people who work
in the back stretch.
And this is not so that we can go and gamble, right? It's just so that we can work
Let your conscience be your
with
guide.
it. That's right. Okay. In the back, is that called the back stretch? Is that what they're referred to? All right. Thank you.
Okay.
At the racetrack.
I don't like having my back to you or to them, so I'm going this way.
It's okay.
I'm Nancy Williams, and I wanted to suggest that we consider an idea that I would call becoming the green church of the northwest suburbs. And I have about a page or two on it, so here we go. The green church of the northwest suburbs would be kind of a bigger thing than the ideas that I've heard here, so maybe I interpreted this differently. But in essence, we'd be about compassionate and sustainable living, and we would learn and teach. So we would learn about compassionate, sustainable living. We would adopt methods for that. We would model it and teach it in the community. We would do it out of love and the desire to responsibly share God's goodness. And this path would allow us to integrate and relate to others in new and valuable ways. We would be loving, knowing, respecting, showing gratitude. We'd be working all those things into becoming the green church of the northwest suburbs. For example, I have about 5 different ways this could kind of play out into programming. We could build an array of educational programs and series. We could talk about food, the energy we use to get around the suburbs and in our own homes and in our church, about time and reflection in nature. We could investigate and embrace more recycling efforts. We could install and encourage things like bike racks, carpools, walk to church weeks. We could organize donated clothing closets for pads and journeys. I see that fitting into this. We could hold trash talks, maybe even taking those kind of talks off-site, where we would talk about topics like technology waste, medical waste, food waste, and our role in creating them and managing them. We could develop programs on people and protein, so we would look at meat and seafood and dairy and plant sources, and you would look at it from a spiritual perspective, talking about our energy, our muscle, our stamina, our responsibility to people, animals, and the planet. So, like, my idea is, like, bigger. We could do another series on our energy, like talking about suburban transportation solutions for work, errands, school, things like that. We could hold a way to go luncheon in which we talk about better ways to pack a lunch or make fast food choices or buy locally sourced foods. So what I envisioned was that we would have like years of engagement that would be of high value both to the community and to our congregation. I think the concept would be attractive to younger generations. It would help future generations, and it also has ramifications for people all over the world. That's the Green Church of the Northwest.
Can we hold on to that? Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
I like that both ways too. I'm
Hey,
Larry,
we'll
I'm
do it
Larry
like that
Hayes.
from now on.
I just celebrated my 38th anniversary of my 39th birthday. So, and one of the things that I had worked with in the last summer is there's some areas called men's rights to passage, and a man passes in different times from youth, from child to youth, from youth to young adult, from young adult to middle age, and from middle age to elder. And we don't have any of those passages in our culture anymore. We just pass it on and hope we get by. In our native cultures, they had these for generations, and we can learn from them, and there are places where we have these passages that we could get involved with and do it, because it's my belief that we can't give away something we don't have. And if we can't really be of good service without some kind of a basis for giving it. And that's what I like about these programs that I've become experienced with over the last couple of years. There's Illumin, Men's, the Mankind Project. There's a group in Australia that works with young children to teenagers, and a group in Belgium that I met with that works with teenagers to young adults. That we could develop programs like this that we could take to kids that don't have a male in their lives, that we don't have somebody to help them become a male in the world today. We have a lot of things for women's rights, but men are left unattended to try to develop a manhood project that makes them integrated fully as a man and then integrated into society.
I'm Cindy Cooper, and I am still stuck on our mission study several years ago that the community just thinks that we're this big white church in Arlington Heights and they don't know anything about us. I just can't get past that. So we need to figure out a way to open our doors and have the community be living among us, not on Sunday mornings, but this building sits here empty all day, every day, and I don't think there's any shame in it generating revenue if it's helping other people. And PDO is an amazing program that we do a couple of days a week, but it generates revenue and they're self-sustaining. And if we expanded that program so that so that we had a real kind of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday PDO that could serve more people in the community, more children in the community, more mothers or stay-at-home parents, but paid for itself and then some, we would be something more than the big white building in the middle of downtown Arlington Heights.
So it sounds like what you're saying is to expand, I just want to make sure we got that right, so expand PDO to help more families and generate revenue.
There's no shame in generating revenue.
No, we can put it in.
Good evening, Mike Cooper. And I didn't know Cindy was going to say all of that, but what I'm looking at here is as many things as we've got up, to really create a community life center of some sort, where we take like the permanent pad site and utilize, couple that with like teaching the kids how to cook their own meals. Somebody said kids having meals during the summer, teaching them how to cook the meals, having the youth then help cook meals for the pads on a regular basis, teaching life skills so that they can go out in the community. We talked the service days, the paint-a-thons, maybe have some of the people involved in pads being able to take and go on out there and learn some skills as well and contribute, give back. But to marry up more of these groups on an ongoing basis, the education part of it, the PDO, so that each one continually supports the other, but creates sustainability on them and make better use of the space we have here.
Thanks, Mike.
That's a little tall for me. I'm Betty Lawner, and that's all right. Most of the people won't be as short. Thank you. I would like to see as much diversity as possible within our congregation, not just racial diversity, but I'm also thinking in terms of people with physical and perhaps at least mild mental handicaps or issues that they deal with on a daily basis. We are so healthy and white in this congregation, and I don't think that's representative of our community. We don't look like all the people that I see at the grocery store or the theater or, lots of other places around town. I think it takes a deliberate effort on our part. We do need to make the building handicapped accessible. We need to make sure that the people who are already members of our church and associated with us are able to continue coming to church even when they have a temporary disability, a physical disability, or as they grow older and need additional help in walking or getting around. We certainly need it for our children. We want to, people could come to worship service on Sunday morning. They can't go to fellowship hall. The children can't get around the Sunday school wing if they are handicapped, if they need wheelchair or other similar kinds of issues. I really feel that our audience on Sunday morning is not the kind of group of people that Jesus would have attracted to himself when he was here. I think you're all good people and wonderful people, but you need to bring some along, some of the other wonderful people that you know into our midst so that we are truly a community.
Thank you, Betty.
I'm Mary Meyer, and I just have a general umbrella idea that was called Feed My Sheep. And one thing I'd like to say, I think there's been some great ideas, and I would love to see us maybe somehow have some of them incorporated together and not just one particular deal. As Mike mentioned, that we could, use them. But under this, some of the things were even already said, like, for instance, the meals or bag lunches or something for the children at risk that on weekends or summers that may not have meals. I also had thought of sack lunches that could be made by anybody in the church, and then even our youth, and then distributed, maybe go down on the train and distributed to the homeless on the streets. But again, anybody could take them out. Also, I would love to see that when I say that about feed my sheep, I'm not just talking physical feeding, but also spiritual and emotional support, not only for the community, but also our own members, that perhaps in certain situations we could make meals or to be taken to, like, the homebound or someone that's just come out of the hospital, not in place of, or not like on a daily basis for Meals on Wheels, but just as a thing, the volunteer might give them a devotional booklet or something to encourage that person. And then I'd also thought of, like, church dinners, not just what we're doing now on Wednesday nights for our members, but that would also include our community. Whatever we do, I would like to see us incorporate some of the ongoing programs, whether it's PADS, our missions, or whatever, into this umbrella program so they don't have to worry about their volunteers or their funding being taken away to other mission.
Why don't you leave us with those? Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
I'm Donna McLaughlin. I have two suggestions, but they're really quick. Thanks. There are so many people in our community that their families are separated by wars, or people are coming back from the wars injured. And I thought if we contacted the local USO or VFW and had them tell us what people are around us and what they need, we could cook for them, we could cut their grass, we could babysit, just help these people when they've done so much for us. And my other suggestion, we come to the 11 service, and so many of the people are getting older and they are having trouble getting here. Well, I'd suggested we make a book to put out that puts people that would be willing to go pick somebody up, and then put our address and phone number and the service you went to. And my husband laughed and said, every robber in the Northwest suburbs wants that. So what I revised it to is, if we have a phone number, maybe 2-3 people that have this book, and if somebody can't get to service, if they call and say, hey, can you fix me up a ride? And so that people wouldn't have to be staying home. That's all. Thank you.
Just real quick, since it's been brought up twice about the transportation issue, one thing that the deacons are tasked with working on is actually finding ways of getting people who have trouble getting to church here. So they are actually developing that right now. That's actually under their ministry. So we are working towards that. It probably needs to be a lot more robust than we've had it in the past, and they're going to try to figure that out and hopefully get a lot more people involved in that. So anyways, that's just for future transportation people who might be coming up and offering the idea. Just to know, we're working on that one right now. Go ahead, Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric Sagendorf, and I think we could become a drop-off point for youth-used athletic equipment. There's a lot of kids in the area that are playing sports all over the time, and the amount of equipment that's even being tossed or not reused, we could be known as the place that people go to drop off their used equipment. We could get our kids in the church involved in this mission as well, where they could, go through it. We could then donate it to certain areas in the city, other needy areas. So I think we could become a neat little drop-off point for, and we could even, there's a lot of, between the baseball, the football, the soccer, basketball organizations, we could easily get in touch with them and get easy sponsorships with that. So kind of a neat thing our church could do.
Thanks a lot.
Eric and I were waiting so long we lost our hair. So, one of the items for education related, kids that aren't successful come from families that are economically not as well off. A few statistics, and I'll keep them very few. Kids are 7 times more likely to drop out of school if they come from a low-income family. 40% of the kids in poverty are not prepared for school. By the end of 4th grade, children who come from low-income families are on the average 2 years behind in school. So, I did a review of kind of districts right around Arlington Heights. In the elementary districts, we're talking well over 7,000 children that fall low income or below. So my thought is we explore developing local programs on how we help children at risk, children low income, children that need that extra boost to try to get them so they can be successful in school, because the results show if you're successful in school, you tend to be successful in life.
My name is Jerry Peterson, and 13 years ago, Joy Fraser called me on the phone and asked if I would volunteer for an ALS patient to help his wife get out of the house for a few hours every week, which I did for 4 years until the man died. And it was a good program that we now don't have in this church. Don Carlson was the last person who I remember was coordinating in this church with this organization called Community Companion Volunteers. And I know that there's people here right now who are doing it within our church to some of the people that need help. But this is outside the church. They still have an office. The office, I have the name of the lady who coordinates that, Community Companion Volunteers, and it's in the office is in Lutheran Home. And so if there were a couple of coordinators in this church that could solicit people who would want to volunteer for a need, we're talking about a need. I don't care to volunteer just to volunteer. I volunteer when there's a need. So that's it. That's my idea.
Thanks, Jerry.
I'm Jan Niemeyer.
For a fellow pastor, I can make it.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm taking the privilege of speaking, though not a member, but I've been really struck by this series that the Herald has been running, where they will give $100 to if you make the case. And what strikes me are the stories that people know.
So wait,
about
what's this? I don't know if everybody
stories
knows.
that people know about a need.
So wait, so what do? They give $100?
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we give $100. I got another.
But I'm just wondering, what's the story, just in case? So they give $100
to say a family like today. There's a little girl who's had all kinds of surgery. Mom can't afford to take care of the situation, and this lady that wrote the idea said, if you give me $100, that's who I'd give it to. And what has struck me is the stories that are just all over our community. We have a lot of services, but these are stories of people that may not fit the criterion. They may not be about to become homeless or something that somebody already is working on. These are unusual, individual, and at supper tonight we talked about it and came up with this idea of like a PDA, but a PPDA, personal Presbyterian disaster assistance, so that you and I'll couple this with something that our sister church, personal Presbyterian disaster assistance, our sister church, Christ Church in Hanover Park, is hosting an organization that has a welcoming center in their church. And so people can come in and get connected with whatever services they may need. So that we might be somehow a connecting place where people could come, tell the story, figure out who might be able to meet that particular need or how or what's underneath it that needs to be addressed. So it could expand.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm Bill Ganato. Thank you. Up. Thanks, Alex. If I've counted correctly, 3 of these items that are up on the board are internally focused. Only 3 of them. The rest of them are all externally focused. And that's the way this has been set up, to focus on external mission concerns. And we have a wonderful list. It's terrific. But I'd like to suggest something that focuses internally and see if there's some merit in it. We have did have a need, a great need, back in 2011 when the congregational life survey was done. It was mentioned by somebody up here earlier. But I'd like to read very quickly a couple of pieces of data from that because I think it underlines the fact that we have a need inside the church that needs to be dealt with too. Only 28% of this is back in 2011 now, so it's perhaps different today, but only 28% of our congregation is satisfied or very satisfied with church, with worship at our church. 69% experience no real growth or only some growth in their faith over the past year. 43% disagree or are neutral, unsure that their spiritual needs are being met in this congregation. And only 11% strongly agree that their spiritual needs are being met in this congregation. That's a need inside this church. It's being met much better now in our worship services, and our adult education program. I think if we had a survey today, we'd find that we've made some improvements, but that there's still a need inside this church. So I'd like to suggest a focus on something that's called spiritual growth. We defined it as intentionally moving toward a closer relationship with God. Intentionally moving toward a closer relationship with God. And a goal might be something like make sure our members have access to information and inspiration that will help them grow spiritually, regardless of where they are on their individual faith journeys. I can personally say that if this had been a focus to me over the past 10, 15, 30 years I've been here, I would be a lot further along on my faith journey, and I would be a lot stronger in my faith. So I'd like to see that as a focus, an internal focus on mission.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm Chris Dunn, and I'm actually presenting this for my wife Jenny, who just walked in, but I'll present anyway for her. This was, in general, the idea is to assist the poor that live in the northwest suburbs. A couple of quick stats that she'd found was that while the suburban population over the past 25 years has increased about 30%, the suburban poor population has almost doubled. So we've seen a greater increase in poverty in the suburbs than was the case a few decades ago. Half of Chicago region's poor actually live in the suburbs. Not all northwest suburbs, but the suburbs in general. So it's not just downtown Chicago that has poverty problems. And to go along with that, of Chicago region's poor, the poverty rate for those under 18 is 20%, which is higher than any other age group. So we've got a specific population of the young and their families who have high rates of poverty. And as I think Tom pointed out earlier, there are a number of those that are in the region just around Arlington Heights. So we have school districts close by that have many poor families in need. We know that, I guess, one of the best ways to help these kids indirectly may be helping their parents, and specifically if helping them have stable earned income from secure employment. And so the idea is that we as a church could provide a variety of services that would be aimed at supporting the low-income families with children to improve their income or improve their employment opportunities. And that could be partnering with existing organizations that we already do who work towards these goals, so faith community homes, wings, other organizations. And it could include a variety of different interests, so not just very employment targeted, but also providing better skills, so perhaps some training for people or education, ESL, other opportunities like that could better improve their earning potential that could then provide them with more secure or higher paying jobs. And to get, finally, I guess, to really involve a variety of different interests in our church, this could include professional development directly. It could include tutoring. It could even include tangential services such as home repair for those in need. Even policy advocacy, if we want to have a broader reach in helping the poor in the area. And finally, working with the business community. I think our congregation is well connected in the business community here, and so we could bridge that gap with those that aren't connected and those that could benefit from it. Thank you.
Thanks. Do you want to hand us the notes?
Sure. All right, so I'm going to represent the bills. I'm Bill Hellier, another Bill. And I'm loving all the ideas. And I don't have an idea. So what I have is a discussion point to further the brainstorming. I keep resonating with the idea of our church being known as the place that provides support, that just, we're known as the service people. I love the idea of the service day, but with all of the different ideas, there are like 10 different ideas around that service day, just providing whatever service needs to be provided, whatever support needs to be provided, perhaps with a focus, but I just love the idea of us being known that way as the service people, as the support people for the community.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Anne.
I'm incredibly nervous, so bear with me. Not that short. I'm Ann Mahalik, and the acronym for what I have in mind is called PASSION. People acquiring skills while inspiring others by networking. I think we need to start at the beginning. What brought churches into popularity? What makes people connect? What the internet is doing for many people, it's finding those people that have something unique about themselves and helping them find somebody else with that same skill or interest. And you can develop upon that. The question is, for us, what makes First Presbyterian Church unique? It's our people. So I look to you and I say, what makes you unique? Guess what I do during the week? I go into houses that are being torn down, and I pull sinks off the wall to go use in my home or to sell, because there's unique things in the world that somebody else out there wants. That's my weird oddity in life, but I enjoy it. And the whole idea is that we have a passion inside of ourselves that a lot of even kids growing up today don't know how to find. They're told to go X, Y, and Z and follow this path. Well, everyone is following that path. And there's not finding their uniqueness in the world, and that helps them find where they need to be and where they want to be and what makes them full inside. So the idea is that we have people in this community who do woodworking, who have, work on stained glass. We have things that were natural trades that we used to do apprenticeships with. So the idea is to find that next generation of things that people have passions for that are already in this church. Who doesn't want to share their passion with somebody else that's like them or wants to experiment? So by bringing it together, it brings us all together. And guess what? If we find somebody that's good at stained glass, if we have something wrong in that chapel and we need to fix our stained glass, we've got people. Same thing with woodworkers. Learning how to do carpentry. How do you get into those jobs? Some of these kids are graduating from high school, have no idea what sort of jobs are out there that don't have to do with computers. I think that the whole idea is to find our passions, find our joy, reach to the next generational. What I love most about this is the intergenerational part of this, and that every one of you can be part of a program like this, because we all have something that we want to share. And it's a little bit different than the past because it's not a book club. It's not, what everyone is interested in. I mean, it's very mainstream. This is talking about what people really brings people together. I think I've pretty much run out my time, but thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Wonderful. Oh, do you want to give us your notes, or you just want to hold on to this? It's okay. We got it recorded, so it'll work that way. Got to raise it way up from Mike,
Yeah, you do. Mike Noble. I was not going to come up here, but Adam Hendrickson sent me a text, so I'm gonna share Adam's text. And then as I was sitting there, I thought, well, maybe I'll come up and say an idea I have. And then Patty says she's got another idea, so I guess that's what brainstorming is. I think Adam's is kind of similar to some of the other concepts or thoughts so far, but I'm just going to read it because it's probably the best way to get it out. I'll start by what he sent to me. He said, "Hey man, would you consider bringing up a mission idea for me?" I said, "Sure." So he said, "What if we had a local mission team that went out doing repairs of many kinds, meal preparation and cooking, etc., for the poor in Arlington Heights, and we designated Sunday mornings," this is controversial, "from 8 till noon as the time available, making it actually a worship experience. Now, Alex, I don't think that fills the church if everybody's going out, but this was Adam's idea, so he doesn't want anybody to listen to him.
A lot less sermons for me, so hey, works out.
He said, I know we do lots of stuff like this at the church, but this would be a reversal, somewhat taking out during worship, us taking charity to those in a way that we would worship on Sunday. So that was Adam Hendrickson. And the thought I had, and was going to interject, and it's not dissimilar from what Ann was talking about, but it's something I've done fairly often. There's a tremendous amount of resources in the church, people, knowledge, skill set. There's a lot of people that need work. There's a lot of kids, like my son, who might, as a senior in high school, might want to get into an accounting, might want to get into finance, might have no idea what he wants to do. I've always thought that that's something that I could sit back and say, well, yeah, I'm in the finance business. How many people would come and ask me questions and access my knowledge and my connections for possibly a job? I've always thought that's something that we don't take care of within the church, and we could expand it outside, but it seems to me, and I don't want to start an employment board. I have no interest in that, but if you kind of knew more about who the demographic was, and we had a way of having a source so that if somebody's looking for a job in this particular area and I know 2 or 3 people in that business, that I could go there and help out. I think it's something that we could, I have no idea what you call that, but I think it's a resource that we could offer.
Yeah, and that fits in really well with the concept of helping those who are underemployed even finding work. But that's excellent. Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you, Mike. Can you believe they're married to each other?
I could just yell really loudly. Thank you. And my small little thought was just to kind of tag on to many of these, and I almost sat down because I thought, well, maybe they're actually covering it. But I just thought of like a single mom, a single man, a single father, whatever, or anybody else. It wouldn't have to be that. But like just today, I came across someone who gets to work, but someone's taking them to work. They work full time, but there's car issues. They don't have the money to fix that. It's a very simple thing. I was literally going to drag, I don't even know how to do it, but I would try if I had a flashlight. But it was like, I thought, well, I called Mike. I said, have you ever done this before? Have you ever put a battery in a car? And we would go figure it out, and that's not my thing. But if there was a list of people who had, if there was a, in addition to the poor or the needy or whatever you want to call it, have a simple need that they could call and say, yeah, there's someone that could come put this battery in your car so you can get to work in the morning. You know what I mean? I know that's a little silly example, not silly, it's a small example, but there's a lot of little things that don't require gargantuan help, but a little bit of help can help a lot, that kind of thing. So that would be tagged on to just helping people, literally our neighbors, whatever, that need something, that don't have the money to go to a mechanic or whatever it may be.
Thank you, Patty.
Hi, my name is Barrett Peterson. I really have 2 things that I'm particularly fond of. Tom Munns did an excellent job on covering one of them, which is education for children and facilitation of all the things that are necessary: health, nourishment, housing, family support. But I think Mike mentioned something that I'd really like to expand on. We have done this a limited bit in the past, which is career management, networking management, career redeployment. When you get to a certain age, this becomes an issue more often, including for me several times, so I've had some practice in this area. But we had networking training here a number of years ago, led by Bill Granato. I'd like to see us get back into that on an expanded basis to help new career people develop skill sets that are going to make them flexible for the next 40 years of their working career, as well as how to live and work in an economy that's become more project and temporary assignment oriented than it historically has been. Thanks.
John Sonderegger's the name. From time to time, I offer some thoughts from my perch on the fence post. And if I'd been smart, I would have brought the November column here. If you remember, that's the one that talked about we could do more. We do a lot for the homeless through pads, journeys. We do a lot for people, working families in need. But could we do more? As I mentioned, pads we take care of 6 months of the year for half a day. But what about the other half a day? What about the other 6 months? Journeys needs help. They're limited by people. They need more help. We have working families that Faith Community Homes works with, but it's a very few number of families that are helped because of limitations. So if you pull out that column from November chimes, that's it.
Hi, I'm Donald Cash. I was driving myself crazy trying to remember the phrase. Grew up with it. It's charity begins at home. And I think for us as a community to become a model, we have a community that we are already here within a community. And I'd like to think that we have in place the structure so that nobody falls and nobody notices it. And that goes out into the greater community. So that's information. How do we know? How do we know when someone needs something? A lot of people don't advertise. So what does the internal love police look like that are hunting down this, who are keeping tabs, the people that just somebody always seems to be the person who's in the know. You know, there's these people. They're kind of like the love police. They're in the know. And how is that connected together with those who say, the gentleman back a little back that said, I really want to serve, but I don't want to just serve anywhere. I want to serve where I'm needed. This is important. It's commitment. So how are these bubbles connected that says there's need, real need, and can we as a church, can we get really good at it in our own church first? And that's our model. That's the model that goes outside of this church. Are we that good at it now? And ideas are great. Ideas are great. But these connections of need, finding out where these needs are. I mean, the hypothetical is fantastic. We know there's people who are hungry. We know that. But that connection is a skill. It's a discipline. It's a structure within a church that I sense that it's in great shape here. Are we really good at it inside of our own church? And can we then take that same concept of a love police out there, of people who are just really talented at knowing what the needs are out, and then facilitating, connecting these with the people who just want to help. But if these things are loose or flabby, then there's people that fall in the cracks. And my second concern that's a little bit in line with that is the idea of that we have churches within the church. Are we fully interfaced with one another? Are our youth, those weird creatures that are our youth, I mean, are they in with us? Are we in with them? Are we separated? What is our interface with everybody so that everyone is working together and everyone knows each other, and it's not... When I was growing up, there was always that horrible teen room somewhere that no adult ever ever dared go into, and it was filled with couches, and the light bulbs had been screwed out of it so it was dark, and black light posters of Elvis and things like that. And it serves its purpose, but what does the interface look like? Is that's a refuge, but is it the only place? Where are we meeting one another? That's and I think that goes back into the idea of how well are we doing it? Are we doing it well here now? What are our improvements? Bill, your suggestion. How are we doing? And then how well can we take that out? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jane Wellman, and I've loved all your ideas. And we've talked about all along as you've been presenting this, and we've talked about it being a whole church thing. So I would like us to keep that in mind as we think about what we're going to do, that we involve not only the youth that are up in that room, but also the 4- and 5-year-olds that can draw something and hand it out and get that love of serving others in their hearts.
Absolutely. And that is the goal, from young all the way to old, all the way through. Thank you. Round 2, huh, Chuck?
There's no rule that you can't have 2 ideas, right? So this one is, I was really thinking about this as I was sitting here because it's really kind of obvious in a lot of ways, and I think many people have touched on it one way or another already. But this is essentially a clone of a program that's in place at Fourth Presbyterian Church downtown right now, and it's been there for 50 years, and it was on NBC News a few weeks ago. Essentially, you bring, and again, I think many people have touched on this, but this brings in a number of kids from the neighborhood, and down there it does it every night of the week during the school year, but you can easily start this off small and do it one night a week. For matching up with a tutor that works with them on a regular basis throughout the year, throughout the school year. So there it provides opportunities for members as well as people who are not members of the church. About 50% of the people there are members, about 50% are not. It provides opportunities for relationships to develop that go beyond really educational. Because it can be done without an absolute affiliation with the church. It provides opportunities to use this as kind of a 501c3 kind of operation, allowing grants to help support it if it's done correctly. And I think what brought my thinking around to it was that so many people here mentioned that the need for this kind of thing existed in this community as well, and I really hadn't really thought about it that way prior to that. So anyway, you could summarize this one as being a clone, if you will, of the Fourth Presbyterian Chicago Lights tutoring program. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. There's a few ideas of people who couldn't be here tonight who wanted me to send the ideas out to you all. This one's from Andy Ryerson. He said that what would be kind of neat is offering reading materials, books, videos, DVDs, CDs, etc., to those who are elderly, who can't get access to those things. Kind of a Meals on Wheels for the library. He says that there is a bookmobile that the Arlington Heights does, but it's not really designed for that purpose. And we do have a library up there where we could do that. So that was an idea that Andy put out there. I don't know how many of you all know Linda Easterwood. She actually does a program which has to do with it's a transportation program to get people to and from particularly the elderly to get them to their medical appointments. And she, of course, is very concerned with the elderly, and I would agree with her that in our society in particular, the elderly are quickly forgotten, and that there's not a great deal of concern for them. And so, one of the things that she brought up was trying to find those who are isolated and alone. One of Barbara's jobs is to go out and to see these people who are in their homes. And she's one person, and she can only do that so easily. And we have a lot of people in this church who, just in our church community, and this is to Don's point, who are, who don't really get out that much, who are not able to get to church, and who don't even get to see anybody outside of their immediate caretakers. And so I think one of the big things that she said is, is there a way that we could be more welcoming and inviting to them, not just here in church, but going to see them. And I love this, if I could just share this. She goes, I don't believe that would ever be the mission of choice for our church. It's probably not sexy enough, but, but I just wanted to put it out there. And let's see. Dan Schubring. Did Dan leave? Did he take off? Okay, because I saw him here. But so a couple of ideas that he had was he wanted to bring up the fact that we could do, and this is actually done over at Orchard, I know that, but there's Thanksgiving and Christmas Day meals for people who don't have families to open it up for them. That's a possibility. He said a New Year's Day potluck. And then this is to tag on to what some people said about professional services. This is where he says, we have a lot of professionals in our church, attorneys, insurance, real estate, medical, etc. Why not develop a way of listing them and their services, and then we could call a trusted person within our church. He says, blockbuster ideas, all of them, just use them all, right? So, and then, yeah. I think that works. That's everybody's. Some of them, one other one is from Bev, and these are some more internal things, which is trying to get people to know about our church services more. And for instance, trying to spread, if you don't go to the 8:30 service, you wouldn't know this, but we don't have many people, there's limited space in there, and it's a good service. And so a lot of people have actually come to me and said, we really should stream that service and let people see what we do in that service. Are there any other ideas that you all wanted to bring forward? Yeah, Bill, come on up.
This is fine.
I'm a professional at this now. I can do this. I can preach and move the microphone up and down.
My name is Bill Elsner, and I joined the church again this past spring. But I grew up in this church. I was ordained here. I got my confirmation here, and it's got me all shook up. And the thing I'm saying is this has always been the First Presbyterian Church of Arlington Heights. And I understand that's where we're located, but I think we have to change the view and include the surrounding area, because if I live in Palatine, there's important people that have done wonderful things in this church that live in Buffalo Grove, Hoffman Estates, and so forth. And I retired from the home furnishings industry, and now I'm working in the 211 high schools. Today I'm a student supervisor at Fremd. I worked at Palatine. Those high schools are well within a 10-mile radius of this church. So we have District 211 schools, we have District 214 schools. If you've read in the Herald about the number of homeless high school kids, it's just skyrocketing and so forth. So I think if we can do the approach and what we're going to plan on doing, and there's some really tremendous ideas, that we look on beyond just Arlington Heights, and we're just down the road, 5 minutes, that's where I live, and I live in Palatine. So that's just my point.
So put homeless youth on there. And that is true. I actually dealt with last year at our Ash Wednesday service, I had a homeless youth come to me and ask for assistance. And it was a really tough thing. But thankfully, I figured out a way through different people here to try to give them some help. Anybody else want to provide any other ideas? You all have done a great job, by the way. Let me just tell you, you really, really have. I want to give you some really, thank you. If I could, before we end, I want to provide one of my own ideas, which has been mentioned in different ways, but back when I did this at Pine Street, one of the ideas that I threw out, which ultimately got supplanted by the GED program, it came out, I thought, it would be really cool to provide housing for people who are, in Harrisburg, there just wasn't a lot of housing options. The housing was shrinking, and so I thought we could buy one of these apartment buildings, rehab it, and then provide for these families, and our church could basically rally around them and help them and do all this stuff. We were a much smaller congregation than this. And so it seemed like a reasonable idea. And I was dissuaded from doing that because the cost was to buy the building and rehab it and do all this, it was like $2.5 million, which is well beyond anything that we could fundraise. But the idea for that, it came out of a conversation that I had with a friend of mine at the church, and he was a guy who grew up in poverty. His mother was usually dated drug dealers, and he grew up in a really, really bad situation. He was abused a great deal growing up, and he turned out fantastic. And I asked him, I said, how did you deal with all that abuse, all that trauma, and how did you make it out of that? And he said, well, and by the way, his sisters did not make it out in the same way. They were in a much worse situation than he was. And he said, well, the difference between myself and my sisters is that I had an uncle who lived a fairly regular life, a life like what you all live. And he said, I would go over there once in a while, usually once a month, and I was exposed to this different way of living. And I knew from experiencing that there was some other way to live than the way that I was living now. And so that planted a seed inside of him that let him know things could be different. Now, his sisters, they never had that exposure. They were always within that kind of dysfunctional family system, and they never had a way of getting out of it. But because he knew that, he knew there was something different, and he grew up and he figured out, I want to be different than what I was when I was young. I would like to be that seed for those children. I think that we have an opportunity to be a seed. We have families here that have a lot to offer, but they need to have exposure. They need a different way of seeing things, and that is tough. And when I came here, that was one of my ideas was I really wanted to see that happen. I wanted to see an opportunity for us to take some of these kids, and we're not taking them in and taking them away from their families, but just having that exposure, that's enough to change a lot in a person's life. Now, that's just my idea, one idea of many that have been thrown out here. What's going to happen next is that there are research teams. Some of the people on those research teams are here tonight listening to the ideas that have been put out there. They're going to go, they're going to take these, and they're going to start figuring out how are we going to bring these things to life. Once they have, I'm going to give you updates on these things as they come along to tell you where they are, how they're doing. And then in September, we're going to have presentations. Everything that you see here, they're going to be giving you 2 options each from each of their research teams. And then you all are going to choose what we're going to do. It's going to be fleshed out. You're going to have basic amount of time, basic costs, and your concerns about do we get everybody involved? Absolutely. That's the idea, is we're going to make sure everybody gets involved in it. So the idea is you all have given the ideas. We're going to run with it. We're going to research them. We're going to find out what's out there, and we're going to give you all something really good to do come September, and then you're going to vote on it, and we're going to find out what it is that this church is going to do. The thing I need you all to do for me, in the meantime, there's one thing that we're going to do that I really need your help with, which is that we're going to give you a survey, a gift survey of what do you like to do? What do you enjoy doing, right? We need to know about your gifts so that we can actually match them with this. Because if what you can do doesn't match up with what we choose, it doesn't really work, does it? So here's what I need from you. I need you to provide the peer pressure on the people who weren't here to actually fill that out. That's really, really important, because if it's just us, the people in this room, it's not going to work. We need to make sure everybody fills it out so that everybody can get involved. Does that work for everybody? Can you be that bad person who gives the peer pressure to say, hey, you need to fill this out. We need it from you. Can we do that? All right. Excellent. All right. I want to say a prayer. I want you all to go home. I want you to be safe. And thank you so much again for coming out and doing this. I really appreciate all of this. This is excellent. Everything that you all came up with, wonderful ideas. Let's pray, and I'll let you go. Lord, what a wonderful outpouring of support. What wonderful ideas. I thank you for everybody who offered theirs to this group. And I want everyone here to know that what they are doing is just so important to building your kingdom here on earth. I pray for everyone that they would have a safe trip home, and I pray that they would know that they are going to make a huge difference in our community. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you again.